What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk for the second time today. And on today's show, we are going to be discussing why Gareth Southgate should or shouldn't manage the club. And what we're going to try and do is Sam, of course, is going to be on the side of saying why he shouldn't. And I am almost reluctantly going to decide why he should, or play devil's advocate, let's just say. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put up two sides. We want you guys to get involved as much as you can in the comment section. And please do help me out a little bit, just because obviously the negative ones is not easy to do, but I'm just saying, like, you could kind of think what's already going to come up. So yeah, just your thoughts overall, Sam, before we dive into this on the news surrounding it. Are you buying into it? Do you think it's just it'll be here for a couple of weeks and it'll go away, or some kind of seriousness in these reports?
I think you could look at it two ways. You could look at it as in this the negativity around Ten Hag the last couple of weeks prior to the Liverpool win. Maybe it's a bit of PR spin from like Ineos and stuff. It's like everybody gets really wound up at the fact that Gareth Southgate is potentially a new manager, and then when Ten Hag either signs or stays and they confirm that, everybody goes, "Oh, thank God for that. Got Ten Hag, we don't have to get Southgate." Maybe there's a little bit of spin there. I don't know.
Like opposite PR spin, isn't it, almost?
It's reverse psychology, isn't it? It's just like, you're going to definitely get this, and everybody that hates it, and then when it turns out, oh, you're just keeping the thing you've already got, you're relieved, even though you weren't that happy with the thing that you had in the first place. So it's psychological tricks. But I think that's potentially it. I've not seen credible sources quote it. I know there's been TalkSport. I know there's been a couple of other places. I've not seen like an Ornstein or a Romano or anybody like that jump on it. So I'm still holding my sort of breath for now. But if it does happen, Jesus Christ, that's going to be horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, well, which way do we want to kick this off? Do you want to start with the negatives, or do you want to start with the positives?
Well, let's just go through the points that you have, and then we'll just provide I'll give you my argument why it's not a thing, and then you can rebuttal if you want, or you can then, the next one, you can give your argument for, and then I can rebut it, whatever you want to do. So we did the first one?
Yeah, so I was going to go with strong leadership skills. That was my first kind of thing I was going to throw out there. Now, during his time at England, from what I've seen, I think he's demonstrated exceptional leadership qualities. Now, he's not guided him to success in that way. We could turn around and look and say, look, we've won that. But I think as a collective, earning the kind of respect of players and staff alike, and everyone who's worked below him have only ever said good things in terms of how he kind of works, which could translate well when you're looking at, you know, high-profile club like Manchester United. So from what he's done with the campaigns, how he's managed things, there's other things I'm going to touch on. I think he showcases this, and you need a strong kind of personality to manage a club like United. So that was the first one that I would go with.
Yeah, I think I'll give you, he's created a cohesive team due to his management, his man management, which is obviously a part of leadership. Gary Neville's spoken about in the past, hasn't he? The fact that the Liverpool players used to sit on their table, United players sit on their table, and there wasn't really a team effort. It's probably why the golden generation didn't succeed, because they were all individuals playing for themselves rather than a team playing together. And you see that England team, they seem to give a shit about each other, seem to play together and play well. So he's got that. However, you've got to look, if you look at his record, yes, he's got to a semi-final and a final, but both of those games he probably should have won with the players that he has at his disposal. I'll get into tactics and stuff later, and that's part of management. Part of management is making the right selections and pushing and taking risks and going forward and doing things that may or may not pay off, but if they do, they win you a trophy. Like Klopp, the way he plays, very risky style, but he makes those decisions and it's paid off in some parts. He's won trophies, he's become part of the culture in Liverpool and become part of the fans, and the fans connect with him. I don't feel there's that connection with the fans with the Southgate style of leadership. It's very politician. Do you get my vibe?
Risk averse. He's not risk. He's risk adverse, basically.
He's very down the middle, and like, do you know, you see politicians speaking at like a lectern, and they're like, "We're going to do this, and then we're going to do this," and there's no passion, there's no bite, there's no sort of any sort of thing. It's just literally straight down the middle. And I think do you want that at Manchester United? Like, is that who you want? You want your mate's dad who coaches a Sunday League team, who coaches the kids' team? Is that you want? Like,
do you see that kind of character though anywhere in international football in terms of what you're asking for? Because I don't see any manager who's kind of that profile really.
Not in international football is fine, but we're talking about Manchester United, aren't we? Club football, very different beast, very different mentality, and very different.
Exactly. So he could then adapt that to club football. You have to manage international. Obviously, England set up and the United set up differently, really, don't you? Completely differently.
Yeah, so, and I think his style is good for. I think if you always do that day to day, and like club football it's every single day, all day. Whereas international football, you get your breaks and stuff like that. I think international football, I think players would figure him out and realise he's a soft touch, and he's just like there's other parts of the thing that I want to get into that I don't want to reveal for why I don't like him, but there'll be other things in there where he'll get found out. And I think in international football he's able to hide behind a lot of that stuff because of the nature of international football. But I'll get into the other stuff like as we go through the points. Yeah,
well, you mentioned tactics there. Is that another one we can kind of throw up?
Yeah, tactical adaptability.
Yeah, tactical adaptability. I know he's criticised or been criticised a lot, and he's kind of perceived as this kind of tactical, rigid coach. And I do get that because I see it in a lot of the games. But I've also seen in tournaments where he's shown flexibility in his approach, and he's also matched the strengths of his opponents to get through, certain tough games that we'd have that England haven't managed to get through before, because we always have this kind of history and backlog of like games where we've just not managed to get past that extra bit. And I think he's broke the barriers with certain things there in game, and obviously that's another valuable trait in club management.
Yeah, he's definitely probably got us further than any other manager. Not probably, he has. Than any other international manager previously. What was it? Sven, the previous one, semis, I think.
I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even tell you.
If I'm remembering that correctly, but he's had slight adaptation. He's very rigid to change, though. He's very, very rigid. We've seen that in player favoritism, the way he selects teams, the way he sets up. Like, it's very pragmatic. Every time, even when we've won games and won them comfortably, it's still pragmatic, and it's not due to the excellent attacking tactics that he's employed, like a Jurgen Klopp swashbuckler style, or a Pep Guardiola, like heavy possession based, passing it around, trying to find those gaps, or even a Ten Hag style of transition. As soon as you win the ball back high up the pitch, you go and you kill off the opponent. He doesn't do any of that. And it's all very pragmatic, and we've seen it in games where you think if he just had that extra attacking edge or that other gear to go into, that other formation where a team is clearly lacking in sort of firepower or mentality. Like for Italy, example, in that game, Luke Shaw scores that goal. An attacking manager or a tactically adaptable, flexible manager would be like, I'm killing this game off right now. I'm stepping on their neck and I'm putting another goal in, and we're pushing up to get these goals and kill the game off. He didn't do that. He sat back, which is it just kills you in games. Like I don't think you can do that. I think he did that in Croatia after the missed penalty. Tactically, it didn't change anything. Didn't go, okay, I need to get a goal here because that goal would have sealed it. He sat back again, and he always plays with two defensive pivots. I think he's going to continue that way. I know Kobbie Mainoo's been called up, but I don't see him not playing Jordan Henderson and Declan Rice in like a double defensive pivot with Jude Bellingham. I just don't see him changing it like in my eyes.
Do you see him more as like a Simeone or a Jose, or where it's like the main aim is not to get beaten? Yeah. Again, and that's not really a style that's prominent in football at the moment, is it? Or that's winning things. Maybe in the Italian league. But I know obviously Arsenal, City, Liverpool definitely don't play that kind of football. They're strong defensively, don't get me wrong, but their first thought is almost outscoring teams or outplaying them. And that seems to be the style that, like I said, that's rose to prominence in a minute. So, yeah, the tactics I agree with, but I don't think it's a full-blown conclusion that he just sticks to one system and that's it. Like, I think I have seen him be flexible before. Maybe there's room for more flexibility there, but I have seen him in games change certain things, and I'm like, yeah, I can see the improvement there.
With the ability that he has, the talent that he has, would you not agree he should be not the philosophy that he has? Like with international football, it's very different. International football, you have to play to the style that the players that you have. You cannot necessarily push a style onto players, because you can't go out and buy players. Like, you can't go out and go, I'll get this player in because he fits into this football. You have to look at the players that you have and then try and fit something into there. And with the players that we have, some of the best attacking talent and midfield talent in the world, you not think he needs to, okay, I need to like tweak things here. I need to push up a little bit rather than the conservative style that he tends to employ.
I do agree with that. However, I also think in league football, you get a lot more games and a lot more training sessions to drill that kind of style into him. Don't forget, when he goes off for the Euros, you have a couple of friendlies. You play, 3 group games, is it? Or something like that. And then you go into the knockout stages, and that's it. So it's almost like, I can see it, me being kind of pragmatic anyway, I can see why you would go into them games against your Francis or thing and be more risk averse. I think, you know what, I have faith we can nick that because it's worked in previous tournaments before.
International football standards very, very low though, isn't it? Like, let's be honest. Like, there isn't that many teams who are high quality. Like, France is obviously one of them. Italy aren't the same team, haven't been for years. They even qualified for the last World Cup. Spain are still in a rebuilding phase. They've lost a lot of their sort of bigger players. Germany aren't great at all either. Like, they've had to bring back did they bring back Toni Kroos? So Manuel Neuer's on his way out, like that kind of stuff. So there's no big team really. Portugal, like, a lot of promising talent, but just can't seem to put it together. Belgium had their golden generation, that's been and gone. We're probably the best team, talent, like man for man talent in this tournament, like in the Euros. And you not think with that team, you can't play conservative just in case they beat you. Like, we are, France aside, probably the best team, I would say, like talent.
Yeah, I think it is a difficult one because the players, when you have Bellingham, Rice, Kane, Saka, all these guys, you should be playing a lot more vibrant football, 100%. I get the risk element side of it because it's such fine margins in football. I'm sure if you go watch any of our campaigns, the past 2 or 3, we've won by 1 goal, or the other team's won by 1 goal, or whatever. I mean, France, when we got knocked out, won it 2-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
When we got beat by Italy, it was only just on penalties. So it's fine margins. And I don't know, maybe if he does decide to go, you know what, we're going to go a bit more offensive. We're not going to play with 2 pivots. We're going to go with 2 8s. We're going to leave Declan on his own. I'm going to go like this. And maybe that would be the extra step, that he needs to go and win a tournament. But I'm trying to say I understand the psychology side of it, where you'd be a little bit less risky in that sense, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know.
Yeah, tournament football is very different. Like, it is very different. I get that, but I just think back in the day, England had a few good players, but for the most part, every other team is better than us. I think right now, especially in the last tournament and this upcoming tournament, I think there's probably one team better than us, and it's France. Everybody else, I think we should be, and we are better than. Obviously,
should be one of the favourites.
Things happen and stuff like that. Who was the team we played in the
groups?
Euros? No, in the last 16.
Denmark, was it?
Denmark. Denmark didn't look convincing, did we? Did not look convincing. Denmark again. We've got Eriksen.
Extra time on it.
Yeah.
Beat him in.
Eriksen, Højlund, we know, but again, not world class players. This isn't Mbappe. Like, do you know
and
what I mean?
Also, Højlund wasn't. I don't think
Højlund wasn't even there. Yeah.
Thing.
Like, this is like, you should be putting Denmark to bed when you've got Bellingham in your team. You got these players in your team. Like, you should be putting them to bed. I mean, it took till extra time. So it's that kind of stuff. It's just like, you need to be beating these teams that are put in front of you. But yeah.
Well, this kind of falls into the next category that I wanted to discuss, which is kind of experience with high pressure situations. Now, obviously managing England, the national team, especially during major tournaments, you talk about World Cup. I think, isn't it the most viewed sport on the planet, the World Cup?
I think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
So obviously he's been exposed to these high pressure situations, and I think that is another kind of feather in the cap, if you will, that you can then take into management at club football. Different again. His expectations at United are huge, but expectations with England, even though we haven't won anything, are still massive. Especially with, like you just mentioned, them with the talent that we have. So I do think he's done well in a lot of the situations to cope with the pressure that he's had, because, you know, people, even now, obviously there's still a lot of people who don't like Gareth Southgate, who just put it out there. You know, a lot of England fans don't. A lot of people, you know, with a high reputation don't like him. So I think he's done well to keep cool in a very hot climate.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's been in those experiences and he's been in those tournaments, but he hasn't been successful. And that's the mark of a good manager for me. You go into these high pressure situations and you come out on top. Obviously, you're not going to come out on top every single time because it's very rare. Like, even Fergie didn't come out on top every single time. Like, he lost games, he lost titles to rivals and trophies, etc. Lost finals. But over 50% of the time, you're going to come out on top. And he's had two massive opportunities in the last 5-6 years to win a trophy with England, and he hasn't taken him, and that's down to him for the most part. Like, tactically, selection-wise, pushing his players to go and attack and kill games off with very poor teams that were put in front of him. France aside, like, you could probably like the France slide, but again, I thought we were a better team against France for the most part, and then we just got killed off with obviously Mbappe, who's one of the best players on the planet, if not the best player on the planet. But Croatia should have beaten him. Absolutely, like, it's very poor Croatia team with a 36-year-old Modric absolutely running the show, but we still should be beating them. And a poor Italy team should be beating them. We had to go to penalties and we lost. And I think, yes, he's been in these situations, but he needs to be successful in them. We've seen Fergie, the old FA Cup final, he's close to losing his job. Came out, Mark Robins scores a goal, gets to keep his job, goes on to build massive success. It only takes one success, and I think he's had a couple of cracks at it, and he's not got it. And I think this is probably his final chance going into this Euros. If he does not win this Euros, I don't know what leg he has to stand on, really, because
I agree with that.
He has to win it.
I agree with that. The thing is, though, with the England job, it's the measuring stick is bizarre because, let me just ask you this then, do you think every manager since the 90s, every manager's been a bad manager who's been in place at England?
For England, or just as a manager
in general, whoever's managed it? Let's say Fabio Capello, for example, who's won things in club football.
He was successful, but I think the players he had obviously didn't work with the style he was trying to implement. Didn't speak English, really. Was very authoritarian. The players said it was like a prison going away to tournaments and stuff. They weren't allowed out of the room, stuff like that, which I think you got to give them a little bit of flexibility because obviously they're there for 4 or 5 weeks. But yeah, you don't then do what Ollie was doing, where they don't get to train at night times, they don't like it and stuff like that. You've got to be somewhere in the middle. Sven, I was probably too young to sort of understand his tactical nous and stuff like that, like what I was watching, because I was like 10, 11 when he was around. And then Steve McLaren, shite as a manager, but as an assistant, I think he's pretty good. Obviously he worked with Fergie, he's now working with Ten Hag. But yeah, as a manager, I just don't think he's any good. And then previous to this, Southgate, the only experience he had was relegating Middlesbrough and managing the under-21s. It's like, would you say that's a good manager? I wouldn't say so, personally.
Let's say, for example, someone like Glenn Hodgson, right? Who, for people don't like him, not Glenn Hodgson, Glenn Hoddle. Sorry, not Glenn Hodgson.
Hoddle.
I'm mixing up Roy Hodgson and having a baby there. He was, well regarded as a good manager at the time. Capello's, won Champions Leagues, won Italian leagues, and all this kind of stuff. And then it doesn't necessarily work with the England setup because it's completely different.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to flip that narrative on his head, saying, well, if they've been extremely successful in club football and then haven't been successful in international football, is it a case of the setup, how long you have with the players? Like, can you see why it may be different on the other side?
I think you need both. I think Southgate has done one side of it quite well. Got the cohesion together, as we spoke about in the first point. Got everybody work together, becoming part of the team. Capello didn't do that. Like, Capello was very just like, this is what we do. This is the tactic. This is how we train. And then again, you had that. It was the end of the golden generation of just like players playing for themselves, individuals separated, not together. United, Liverpool, whoever. And now you've got this thing. So I think if you brought in a high quality manager, like obviously Klopp's leaving end of the season. If you brought Klopp into this England team with the way they're all cohesion and together, he's winning tournaments. Like, it's happening.
I don't necessarily agree with that though, because Hansi Flick won 4 trophies with Bayern Munich and went to Germany and flopped.
Germany's weird. Germany's really, really weird. Like,
they're prestigious though.
They're prestigious and stuff, but that's what I'm saying. Their expectation is ridiculous. Like, you see it with Bayern Munich as well. Their expectation is out of this world. They cannot lose a game, otherwise you lose your job. Like, if you lose a game, you're done. It's over. And you've seen it. They don't even have faith in Nagelsmann right now. His contract runs to the end of this tournament. They're not even giving him beyond that because they don't have any faith that he is going to win this tournament. So that at least now at the end of the tournament they can go, right, see you in a bit. So Germany is a very weird example. And I think you've then got it on the flip side. You've got Didier Deschamps at France, who's won everything there is to win as a player and as a manager with this team. And he's still continuing on. But if he went to club football now after decades in international, would he be successful? I don't know. I don't know.
That's the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose. I want to move on to player development, if possible, because there's plenty of things to get through and kind of talk about. Now, this is one thing I won't budge on despite what anyone says in the comment section. Southgate has a track record of nurturing young talent and integrating them successfully, especially into the national team setup. The work that he did with the under-21s as well. All of this aligns, in my opinion, with United's tradition of promoting young players, and which we could look at kind of rejuvenating that whole academy structure. I think he would be perfect for that side of things. I'm not saying as a whole manager, but I think that side of things he would be really, really good at.
No, he seems to be really good at that. Obviously, like you said, managed the under-21s. He's brought in the likes of talent in Saka. Obviously, Bellingham is basically forced his way into the team because of who he is.
Undeniable.
You can't. But then he's given players like Phil Foden their chance in the England team. He's stuck faith for Marcus Rashford because he always performs. Coming up, he's now giving Kobbie Mainoo a chance. So I think he's a big eye young talent. However, I do think he still is hesitant to let go of his favourites, and whether that's like some sort of nepotism or he doesn't want to have to learn to trust new players. Because you see it time and time again, like players who are not performing for the club or are not even playing for their club get selected over and over again. Harry Maguire, I know he's sort of picked it up a bit just before the injury, but before that he was in terrible form, still getting picked for England. Calvin Phillips didn't even play for City and was getting selected for England. Jordan Henderson was here in a very poor Ajax team who were doing absolutely awful, still getting selected. And you'll probably see Marcus Rashford, who, let's all be honest, scored the goal in the Liverpool game, and then a screamer against who was the screamer against City. But apart from that, been really, really poor this season. And I think he holds on to these players too much and doesn't let others come in and get an opportunity. Like, I've been crying out about Fikayo Tomori for God knows how long, but just because he's playing in Italy, he's just like, I'm not even going to look at him. Callum Hudson-Odoi has been great this season. Ivan Toney, James Ward-Prowse has been fantastic for West Ham. Not getting a look in, not getting opportunities and stuff like that. So I think while he does develop certain talents, he has favourites, and people accuse Ten Hag of the same thing. He does have favourites, which stops the progression or stops the opportunity to have a look at other players that you could integrate into the team and might be better off just because your favouritism towards others.
Well, I think this kind of falls into his philosophy and system and way he wants to play. Like you mentioned before, he's very stuck on that kind of pragmatism, and I think one of his strong suits from what I've seen in tournaments is the kind of strong defensive organisation. In games, I know it's not negative football, but I know it's you want to unleash the shackles. But one thing you can say, his record, especially in friendlies and group stages and things like that, is fantastic in terms of goals conceded. And when you look at United and our historical defensive frailties over the past couple of years, that is something that could be a plus on that side. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, like I think if you looked at England in the previous years, there was a few odd sort of world-class players in the past. You had the likes of Rio, Wayne Rooney, Michael Owen for a time, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. But there was a problem with integrating them. Like we ended up with like Scholes playing on the wing, Michael Carrick not getting a look in, that kind of stuff, and it was bizarre. I think now, and then we had that period in between where it was just like average players playing for England, weren't they? Like David Batty and Liam Miller, and just weird, bizarre, because we were trying to find these players that just didn't work really, that just weren't suitable for England, and we weren't great. And then with Southgate, I understood in tournament football, you've got to just not get beat, because that's how you get through to the next round. But I think with the talent that he has, he can afford to be a bit more free with the way he plays. I understand the defensive organisation. I understand you don't want to get beat in tournaments because it's knockout football. If you get beat, you're done. You don't get a chance to come back. But I think with the talent that he has, especially in the attacking areas, in the midfield areas, I think he can afford to be a bit more freer. Obviously, if you don't want to take the handbrake off completely, I understand that, but you've got to give a little bit of lift, man. Just give something, just to release these talented players that you have. You see what Bellingham's doing for Madrid. You see what Foden does for City. You see what Rice does for Arsenal. We have to see that for England, because if we do see that for England, we'll win games and we'll win them comfortably.
The massive difference is the trophies in it, because had he had got to the final, this is how easy the narrative can flip. Because if he would have beaten Italy and won the Euros, and then would have got past France as well, we'd be sat here saying he got it absolutely spot on, the tactics were fine. But because it's small margins and you're losing the game, it's like people would have criticised Mourinho for the same thing, but because he's won trophies by doing it, I mean, if you look at the performance against Barcelona with Inter Milan, when he won the treble, it was just the most pragmatic thing you'll ever see in your life. It was just disrupting the play, stop Messi playing, nick a goal, and we go through. And that works sometimes, but it's fucking very small margins for that to happen.
I think people would be like, I don't think Southgate's the right man for England, nor for United. I think people, including myself, would be more forgiving if he went for it and it then cost us, and it made a mistake to cost us, but he went for the win. I think people would be more forgiving, me personally anyway. I don't want to speak for other people, but say the 1-0 up against Italy, and he goes, right, I want to kill this game off. So he starts right, push players up, high press, let's go for it. And they get done on a counter, but they've been pressed up high. I think I'd be more forgiving of that than us sitting back and waiting for Italy to come onto us and then we concede. That would annoy more. But I think if we went for it and it cost us, I think we'd be at least we went out on our sword, man. At least we went out fighting rather than sitting back and waiting to concede, that's what the part of it I don't like and I don't understand about why he does it, especially with the talent he has.
I'm interested to see how he goes about it this Euros, because, like you said, it's undeniable, isn't it? With Foden, Saka, Kane, Bellingham, Rice, maybe Mainu in there. Yeah. That front six, how expressive you can be with that team is.
And you got options as well. You got Maddison, you got Gallagher, you got
Cole Palmer.
You've got these guys who you could pull off the bench. So say you're 70 minutes, you need a goal. Saka's sort of dropping, or Rashford or Foden's dropping. Cole Palmer on, bang. And he gets a goal. He's basically keeping Chelsea up single-handedly at the minute, Cole Palmer.
Unreal.
To pull him off the bench is a fantastic option to have. Do you know what I mean? You have to go for it. You have to go for it.
That's why it makes the team selection so fascinating, I think, because we have got attacking players and midfielders in abundance. More attacking players, but in abundance, haven't we, in terms of who you can select from. It's going to be a headache that when it comes to picking people for the playing, but I suppose that's the job of a manager. I'm going to brush past the team cohesion and experience in developing winning mentality, because we've kind of already touched on that. So if it's all right with you, I wanted to kind of skip to the media thing that we wanted to talk about. Is that cool?
That's the wrong one. There we go.
Media savvy. I think, again, this is me discussing the positives of Southgate. I've got plenty of things I can discuss that I don't like about him, but I'm trying to push the agenda and argument for his positive side. I think he's very media savvy. I think the way he's handled certain things, his calm demeanour, has been praised numerous times, which could help. Again, to flip it back to United, because we are talking about Southgate potentially managing Manchester United, you look at how much of a circus the media is around our club. I think he would be able to deal with that, having come up with England, because again, we all know what the press is like with England as well, especially back in the day in the 90s, early 2000s. It was fucking ridiculous. And he's handled it really, really well. So that is another one that I would be strong on and say, I wouldn't be convinced otherwise, because from what I've seen, I think he's done a good job in the media.
I think he's done a good job because he's so vanilla and he's so white bread. He doesn't have a personality, so you can't prickle him, you can't wind him up. You see Klopp with a loss after United, and he's calling a reporter fat, and he's going on.
Is that what you want? You want Southgate?
No. I'm just saying. You see, he can be wound up because he's so passionate and he's so he goes off. You see, Jose, he's talking about respect and 3 times and blah blah. Fergie banned reporters from Like he didn't want to talk to Sky Sports at Match of the Day for years. So like these players have got prickly sides because of who they are. And I just don't see Southgate ever doing that. Like he's just there's nothing wrong with that. Like he's clearly got a good relationship with him, but I think that's helped him get a pass because the media have given him an easier ride because of how he is with the media. They've sort of like backed off him a little bit because normally England managers one of the most scrutinised positions and they get hounded, and so do the players. But I think because of, like you said, his media savviness or his media, it's like a dog rolling over and showing its belly. That's kind of what he's doing. Like he's kind of just, I'm okay, it's nice, I'm very boring, there's nothing really to get your teeth into, so let's just not do this story and I'll give you an interview and stuff. And that's who he is, which is, I suppose for England it's fine. I think it might wind up United fans. Like we see Ollie going, you remember how much we wound up when Ollie was going, they're great lads, they're doing this and stuff. You're like, well, fucking see it on the pitch then. Do you know what I mean? Like, why the fuck is this on the pitch? We get annoyed with Ten Hag with the same thing going, I thought we played well. And you're like, the fuck are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird thing. I think you can be honest and you can have a bit of emotion, but I think obviously you can stray too far over the other side, like Klopp and Jose have done in the past. Arteta is an absolute lunatic when it comes to being interviewed. He just says ridiculous shit.
People almost want obsessive managers, don't they? Like Pep is a fucking lunatic as well.
Yeah.
Very detailed, obsessive managers, I think, seem to be the more successful ones at the moment, like personality traits wise.
I think you can straddle the line better. Like I think Klopp goes too far sometimes, Arteta goes too far a lot of the time. Pep seems to keep it there, but it does occasionally lose his shit, like does occasionally go too far. But I think you can tread that fine line, because if you do, you create that connection with the fans. Like you see the connection that Klopp has with the Liverpool supporters. Like it's there. Like you see the connection with the City supporters with Pep. Like it's there, and I think you'd never have that with Southgate if he was at United. I just don't think the fans would connect with him, and I think you need that in club, especially in club football. You need that sort of thing.
Yeah. What you kind of mentioned there though falls into, like you're saying, almost is a bit of a yes man, like with a dog rolling over on his belly and da. Yeah. Now, when we're talking about a club philosophy and adhering to this kind of club philosophy, Ineos need a yes man, don't they? And from what we've seen and from what's been written and all that kind of by very credible journalists, they maybe want a bit of a yes man. And Southgate's understanding of kind of a club's identity and philosophy could align well with this. You know, with the way with the way Ineos want it to work and the whole hierarchy and da, and we're trying to ensure this kind of consistency and continuity. Would that align with Southgate if they do want that kind of prototype of manager?
Yeah, he does seem to be very amenable, doesn't he? Like he's obviously come through the FA ranks. He's played for England.
Ashworth.
Yeah, Dan Ashworth's connection. He played for England. Obviously, he was in the famous Euro '98. Penalty miss, has managed in the under 21 level, and then it's now come through to thing, which is very sort of club football-esque. Like you saw that at Barcelona. Pep managed the B team in Barcelona and became the first team manager, and like you've seen that across the world. Like I think Zidane did the same thing at Madrid, didn't he? He managed the B team and then managed the first team. So it's a very club sort of esque thing to have a philosophy starting at a young level and then graduating up the levels, and you know exactly what you're going to do and how it works. So I think that fits into the sort of Ineos philosophy, because they're talking about we pick the style, we pick the philosophy, we buy the players, and then the manager coaches and gets the best out of the team.
Getting that cohesion and getting them playing together and getting a certain setup.
He fits that for sure, and I'm sure he wouldn't be going to the boardroom with too many demands, I imagine. I don't see him that as that sort of guy.
Just Maguire as your captain is the only demand.
Maguire, and then transfer Jordan Henderson from Ajax into United midfield. So I don't see him making demands. I think obviously you get a bit of friction with Ten Hag because of who he is and the way he operates and stuff. But Ten Hag did work under that sort of operation at Ajax. Like you had Overmars and you had Van der Sar running that sort of thing, and he sort of just coached the players as a tracksuit manager, which is what he's good at. He's good at tactics and philosophy. That's the whole thing. But I think he's been given too much responsibility at United, because he's basically picked every single player and told John Merton, Richard Arnold, I'll pay this for him. And obviously they don't know better because they're not football people. and they just were like, oh, the manager knows, we'll do that, rather than push back a little bit and be like, no, we're paying too much for this guy. Here's other options in that same position that play a similar style that fit your philosophy, and we pay a lot less for them. And I think that's what you need at a club. And obviously, Southgate would fit in more to that style. But again, I just think sometimes you need a bit of pushback from a manager, and you need a bit of like authority. And I just don't know if Southgate has that in him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe because I don't see him in training. We don't see what he says to players and stuff like that. But yeah, I just get a very Tory MP vibe from Southgate. That's what I get.
Yeah.
Like
that explains it all now.
Yeah.
That explains it all.
Say whatever I need to say to make everybody happy. But whether it's the truth or not, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. I'm just going to read out a couple of comments. Aaron Gregory saying Southgate should land at Newcastle, Villa, West Ham and see how he fares there before we talk about a top club. I think that's a very good point. Tim99 is a Real Red Ultra member. If you want to become a member, click the link in the description. There'll be a new video dropping towards the end of the week. Saying Sven was good, would have won in Japan if we got past Brazil. Again, we don't have any idea how he fares in recruiting players. Also, that's going to be a big part of United's future. But it won't necessarily be him recruiting it. It'll be Ineos and Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox and all these guys will be dealing with that. We want to raise the level at Manchester United players, culture, passion of it here. Osman Lackey says as soon as we get it right, do a decision, make us move 10 steps down. Superb business in the medical team. If you have heart issue, play more minutes. No idea what's going on there, but
I think it's the Casemiro story, isn't it? Like, I just think.
Oh right, that whole
the medical team being absolute bollocks.
Yeah, utter nonsense. Now the last one we had on the list was potential for long-term stability. Now, given Southgate's relatively young age, successful track record, if you call it successful with England, the appointment, if you're looking for a man, it almost falls into the yes man kind of things. If you're looking for a man long term, it is someone you could work with in that sense. It's not a Mourinho where you just go in 3 years, buy all the best players that you can, and then piss off, or someone like that. He is someone that you could work with on a project. But again, at the same time, Sam, there's other ones you can work with who are younger on a project, including Erik ten Hag, who has a lot more experience at club level.
Mm-hmm. And you've got other options as well. Obviously, you've got De Zerbi, who's worked a project at Brighton, and Sassuolo, who worked the way up the Serie A ranks. You've got the Ruben Amorim at Sporting Lisbon, who's broke the hold on Porto and Benfica, the stranglehold on the Portuguese league. You've got, I'm sure there's other young managers that I can, if I had really thought about it, I could pull out my ass as well. But I think there's a lot of options out there, and I think it's a very weird thing that all these sort of media outlets are just they're just not identifying any other sort of coach who could possibly get there. They're just going all in on Southgate, and it's like, where's that come from? Like, where's this stemming from, and what's the sort of source and genesis of this? Because it's a weird thing, man. I don't get it. I really don't get it. But yeah, he's been at England for, how long's he been in England for now?
Long time. And it feels like he's done at least 3 tournaments. It's like 2016, I want to say, or close to that.
It's like nearly. He's coming up 8
years, I think.
9 years, like yeah. So, long term thing. Again, though, I think in club football, you get sort of judged on your last result. Like, your last result is like always the thing that in people's minds. So we obviously beat Liverpool just before we sort of the international break, but we've got Brentford. If we lose against Brentford, it's Ten Hag, he's losing his job, but it's all over again. Do you know what I mean?
Flippant. Yeah.
Whereas England, I don't think the pressure is, obviously the scrutiny's there, but I just don't think the pressure is that intense, especially because you're playing so many friendlies, and if you lose a friendly, who gives a fuck? Like, nobody cares. And with qualification, you're playing so many games in qualification games. You can lose a game and you still qualify top of the group, especially with the groups that we're in. Like, you look at the international standard of like qualification. Like, we're playing what are they called? Liechtenstein. Yeah, Liechtenstein and fucking San Marino and Andorra and stuff. And no offense to these countries, I'm sure they're lovely and I'm sure they're great people, but your football teams are shite. Like, half of them have got plumbers playing for them and they're not professional and stuff like that. Like, you don't play a good team until you get to the tournament. Once you get to the tournament, that's when you start playing France, Netherlands, Germany, Italy. But in qualification, you don't really play anybody good, if I'm honest. And then when you do play someone good, it's in a friendly, and when it's a friendly, they're not putting out their best team. They're not really trying because you don't want to get injured and they want to go back
especially
to clubs.
Especially at this stage of the season when teams are in title runs and stuff.
It's all K and stuff, so it's just like the quality is so poor in international football. So I just think you're not going to get scrutinised as much as you would in club football, when in club football every fucking game matters because it's either in the league, it's in a cup competition, every fucking game matters. So I think that's where the scrutiny is going to come down on him, and I don't know how that's going to go, especially if he loses a couple of games, because you saw what happens when Ten Hag loses games and he's got credit in the bank. People are losing their minds. So yeah, that's going to be the tricky bit.
Well, we're going to summarise our points shortly and come to kind of some form of conclusion, or leave with kind of different thoughts than we did at the start of the video. But we did put a poll up at the start saying, would you take Southgate as manager if Ten Hag left? 90% said no, and 10%, would you believe it, said yes.
Who said yes?
Who the 10% is.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Speak up in the chat if you said yes.
Unless it's like a Liverpool fan or something, or a troll who's just like, yeah, fuck this guy, we're just going to put fucking Southgate. So yeah, you can see obviously there, just from the general consensus within our community at least, that 90% of people don't want him as the manager. So I think we can take the hint there. But the one question I wanted to ask is, the links at the moment, people are kind of batting off as, you know, just it is what it is. It's a bit of a media circus, a couple of weeks, and then it'll be done. If he wins the Euros, then do you think it really ramps up and he can kind of leave? Because it kind of falls into it, doesn't it, where you're like, he'll have obviously a lot of credit in the bank. He'll be highly regarded at the time. Yep. Do you think the narrative changes then? I
think that adds to it, and then it also depends how Ten Hag's season ends up, doesn't it, as well? Like, if he doesn't get to an FA Cup final or win the FA Cup and he finishes outside of the Champions League spots, then that doubles the added pressure onto Ten Hag, doesn't it? And then it doubles like Ineos to go, right, what do we do here? He's not got the Champions League qualification. He hasn't won a trophy. We've got Gareth Southgate over here, who we know. Dan Ashworth knows, our new football director. He knows him. He's just won a trophy with the Euros. And you can see the thinking in their head, how they'd approach it. It's like, get a trophy winning manager and blah blah blah. He's English. He knows some of the players, Luke Shaw, Rashford, Sancho, maybe, etc. So you think maybe that makes sense to them. But again, I don't know. I until I see like a legit media organisation report on it. When I see the Athletic, I want to see Ornstein, Romano. When I see somebody like that, okay, I'll start taking it seriously. TalkSport at the minute. We know what TalkSport is like. They've got you get sort of more morality and sort of truth out of a fucking wall than TalkSport, because
it's like Jeff just put there in the chat. James from Muppeteers indicated not to read too much into the Southgate nonsense. Like obviously it's just one of those things that you discuss, and it become like a relevant kind of thing at the moment.
It's hypothetical.
And we wanted to discuss hypothetical. We wanted to discuss the potential of it, how it would work, maybe the pros and the cons, and just really get into the debate and the discussion, and also to get you guys involved to see what you lot think, because I think it's an interesting point. I don't think it's as far gone as it definitely won't happen. No. Like I said, things can change in the summer, where if he does win the Euros and we do play good football, I think people's opinion on it will change slightly. I don't think yours will, because I know how you feel about Southgate, but I think people in general, football fans, may change their mind on that situation if we do well.
Like, if he wins a trophy for England, fantastic. I'm from England. I'm an England supporter. I think he's disillusioned me a little bit with England, but I have enjoyed England way more under him than I have any other manager, because it's just always 100%. Fucking been disappointing previous to that. And if he wins a trophy, then good. But if he doesn't win a trophy,
it's his last one.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to do it at this point. You cannot have these players that you have and expect to continue on in this job if you don't win this year. So I'm hoping, for his sake and for England's sake, that he does win a trophy. And I'm hoping for Ten Hag's sake that he either wins the FA Cup, gets the final, and finishes the Champions League, so we don't have to have this fucking discussion again.
Yeah. Both would be amazing if England do win a tournament and Ten Hag gets the job done. Because I think we've both kind of been in agreement, haven't we, with the fact that we'd probably keep Ten Hag, at least for another 6 months at the start of the season.
If you want to go check out our video, me, you, and Chivy did a manager debate, and we went through all the options and stuff like that, and we basically concluded that there's no real standout, oh my god, get him option. So you'd probably stick with Ten Hag, but go check the video out if you haven't seen it before, because it's well worth a watch. But yeah, we went through every sort of option: Amarin, De Zerbi, Southgate, everybody.
Yeah, and also if you can, please do turn on that notification bell so when we do go live, you won't miss a thing. We've been live a couple of times today. Plenty more content coming your way as it is the international break. So there's no watch-alongs, there's no live pre-match or previews or anything like that. No club football. So we'll be focusing our attention on doing different forms of content, doing like collaborations. We had Alice on yesterday. We had Jay Motti on the other day. Muppeteers a couple of weeks before that. So we're just working on different kind of people to come onto the channel and kind of change the content up a little bit. So if you do enjoy it, please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and all the socials at the top there that you can see. You can see the Twitter, you can see the Instagram, the TikTok. Please do drop us a follow. Let us know that you have. And yeah, apart from that, is there anything else, Sam?
No.
The Southgate. Do you want to tell the viewers that you'd have him as United manager?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, I hope the best for England. Like, I'm not interested in England, but I hope the best for England because I think certain players, the talent they have, they deserve to win something. So I hope England win the Euros this summer. Like, I hope it happens. So
will you be watching Manu?
Absolutely.
On Saturday?
Yeah, normally I don't watch fucking any England international friendlies because what's the point? But with Manu possibly playing, I definitely want to check it out. I want to see what he's like, how he steps up, how he handles it all. It'd be interesting if he gets some minutes. I don't know if he will. I don't know if he starts, but I hope.
Yeah, I think he will get minutes against Brazil. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he'll start, but he'll get some minutes. So yeah, we'll do a couple of bits on that as well as the game, as that England game gets closer, because it's the only football that's popping off at the moment. So yeah, do come and check that out, and we'll I suppose we'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah, come and tune in tomorrow. Take it easy.